So I think we have everybody. Thanks everybody for joining. It's 1:04 p.m. on Tuesday, November 7th. We're gonna go ahead and call the meeting to order. We do have quorum. So I'll start with introductions. Onaona Thone, Chair of the Council. I'll go to Robin next.
Robin Kay, sitting on the island of Lanai.
Thanks, Robin. Okay, Mary.
Mary Bashir, Hawaii Island.
Thanks, Mary. Rachel.
Rachel Sprague calling from Lanai.
Thank you, Rachel. Okay, I'll go to Michelle next.
Michelle Lefebvre, Hawaii Island.
Thank you. Tessie.
Tessie Kinnaman, Kauai.
Thank you. Dawn.
Dawn Hager Nordblom, Island of Maui.
Steph. Thanks, Dawn.
Yeah.
Steph Dunbar Cole.
Okay, thanks, Steph. Mahina.
And sorry, I'll turn my camera on when I can.
No worries, Mahina. Okay, Maka'ala. Oh, you're on mute, Maka'ala.
This is well and mouth is full. Maka'ala Moana, Kauai.
Thank you, Maka'ala. Okay, I'll turn it over to ERP. Tom, do you want to start us off?
The ERP staff is divided into two separate places, sitting here in the conference room, State Office Tower at Tom Ison, and we have the
Mary Alice Evans staff.
All right, welcome to you both. All right, and Allison.
Allison Kato, Deputy Attorney General.
Thanks, Allison. And Pane, welcome back to one of our meetings. If you want to go ahead and just introduce yourself for the record.
Hey, how's it everyone? Pane Mantonga, Operating Engineers, Local 3.
Thank you. Okay, folks, so first up on our agenda is review of the October 3rd meeting minutes. So give folks a couple of minutes to go through that. Let's see, it's 1:06 right now. Why don't we reconvene at 1:08? And if anybody needs more time, let me know. Oh, and I noticed we just have another member of the public that joined us, Royce from the County Office of Housing and Community Development. Royce, do you want to just go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. Oh, camera's not straight. Sorry.
It's okay.
Royce Shiroma from the County of Hawaii Office of Housing.
Okay. Thank you, Royce. Welcome. So we're just taking a couple of minutes right now. It's why a little bit quiet to review our meeting minutes from the last meeting, and then we'll get back to business.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, how are we doing, folks? It's 1:08. Do people need a little bit more time to look at the minutes?
I move that the minutes be approved as circulated.
Great, thank you, Mary. Do I have a second? Robin, okay, saw your hand first. All right, and so we're in discussion on any amendments to the October 3rd meeting minutes. Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of approving the October 3rd, 2023 meeting minutes, please raise your hand and keep it up. And if we are unanimous, then I won't have to do a roll call. Tessie, Mahina, sorry, Mahina, are you aye or nay on the meeting minutes or abstaining?
I'm aye, sorry.
Nope, thank you. Okay, so it is unanimous with all members present. Thank you folks for reviewing. All right, so next up on the meeting agenda is the Information and Outreach Committee update. So Mary, I'll go ahead and hand it over to you.
Thank you very much. We met this morning. We're getting ready for our exemptions committee meeting. We need to confirm that date. Michelle, are you prepared to confirm that date at this time?
What is the date again? Sorry.
Either the 10th or the 11th of December. Which one works best for you?
I thought it was 11th and 12th.
Sunday or Monday?
11th,
I'm
12th,
sorry.
Monday, Tuesday.
I'm sorry. Monday, Tuesday, 11, 12. Sorry about that, Michelle.
Yes, Monday or Tuesday works, but not Tuesday between 10 and noon.
Okay, then let's not do it Tuesday. Let's do the 11th. Okay, it's going to be the 11th of December, Monday. And we did not discuss any further forms. We discussed Dawn becoming chair and me becoming committee member, but what we decided maybe that was inappropriate for us to be deciding and discussing. We're still seeking a third person to serve on the panel. And Allison, we wanted to ask you how you felt with this being the exemptions panel. We felt there might be a greater chance that some people, there seems to be more controversy about exemptions than maybe some of the other subjects we'd had forums on. Do you want to be on the panel, or do you just want to be available in the meeting room, the Zoom room, for questions on legality of exemptions and things?
Or maybe just to help Michelle, you know.
I can just be present.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Well, I guess, Mary, is anybody I mean, the panel shouldn't give legal advice. That should be clear, right? We were talking about really the process of exemptions, and
Yes.
we're not going to get into specific exemptions and whether we think they were done correctly or not, right? I mean, I'm just hesitant for the council to be giving legal opinions.
We're not giving advice. What it is in a phone call that I had with somebody on Quai, they said that they're having a similar lawsuit as to like the use of exemptions by the county. And so I just don't want to be asked a question about a specific case, and to make sure that we're not saying anything incorrect either. And, you know, we'll of course try to corral the conversation strictly for exemptions and how they're used. But I think at the end of the day, it's probably going to attract some people who will use it for their benefit. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe at the beginning of the panel, whoever's introducing it, I might suggest doing a disclaimer. This is, you know, really an informational type of panel, not giving any legal advice, all of that jazz. And yeah, if there's any, I think, questions on pending legal matters, it would be appropriate not to discuss those.
Okay.
Go ahead, Makala.
Nor are we discussing any specific cases,
Right.
you know, whether legally or otherwise.
Writing this all down.
I mean, if there's questions on past stuff, I mean, and I know it's hard to say we're not going to discuss any specific case. I mean, I think there are cases that have been fully resolved that you can say this is how one was done right and one was done wrong, right? I mean, at least in the eyes of the Supreme Court, right? You know, Super Ferry, right? That was in the eyes of the court incorrect and stuff. So, I mean, kind of using the stuff that's been way down the road, but if to the extent anything's pending, I think it's safer for us not to inject our opinions into that.
And it's just because a similar situation is happening on Maui as well. So, you know, I'm sure it's everywhere at this point.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I can be present. I wasn't planning to like answer anyone outside. It's more like so I'm aware of what's happening and I can tell what to think.
Right. Yeah, I think it's great for you to be there, Allison. Okay.
Thank you so much.
That's all INO has to report at this time.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Do any of the council members have any questions for INO? Okay. Any members of the public have any questions or comments? All right. Okay, well, thank you so much. Go ahead, Robin.
I think we skipped the interim director's update and jumped right into committees.
Thank
And I
you
know
very much.
Mary Alice is dying to say something today, and I would feel terrible if we prohibited her from speaking. So we may want to back up just a little bit.
Thank you, Robin, for pointing that out. I'm sorry, I had my agenda scrolled too far up. Mary Alice, would you like to give your update? And thank you for being here.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Robin. Yes, I did want to let the council know that the Office of Planning was asked by Governor Green to assist by taking the state lead for the recovery support function for the Maui wildfires. This is as I think you all know, a multi-jurisdictional effort. There are 2 phases, actually 3 under FEMA's guidelines. The first is the emergency response functions. Those are the ones that happen the day after the disaster occurs. Has to do with mass care and feeding, shelter, power, and other immediate needs. And the second is the recovery support function, which is happens after the most immediate needs have been addressed to the extent that it's possible. And the thoughts turn to how to support a long-term recovery. And so the Office of Planning, because of our interest in housing, community planning, infrastructure, environmental issues, was asked to serve on that group. We have been flying to Maui every other week to meet with the FEMA representatives, of which there seem to be a very large number, and the county, and the state agency representative as well. So it's been something that we want to, see more of. I think there's 7 state support recovery functions that have been stood up. Ours is the community planning and capacity building one. There's one for housing with HHFDC being the lead. There's one for infrastructure with Department of Transportation being the lead. There's one for social services and health that has DHS and Department of Health as the lead. There's one for natural and cultural resource protection. DLNR is the lead for that. And I think that might be it for the state recovery support functions. These mirror the federal ones, and the county is the lead on all of these efforts. So we've been working on that. The other thing we've been working on as an office is the governor's 3rd emergency proclamation for affordable housing. And that is, this is a very different from the first emergency proclamation for housing. And it is a team effort with the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development, the White Housing Finance and Development Corporation, and White Public Housing Authority, taking the lead to try to expedite state affordable housing projects, and to try to get positions in state agencies that and county agencies that have been vacant and making it harder to get permits reviewed and decided for housing. So I just want to let you know that we're working on that. I think you are very aware that the emergency proclamation for affordable housing does not exempt projects from Chapter 343. There is no exemption from Chapter 343 for affordable housing projects under this emergency proclamation. Then we've been working on a lot of other things too. Legislative proposals, budgets, of which we've been assured. So that is something, I don't know whether there'll be interest or not, but tax collections are down for the state. The Maui wildfires have had a very strong impact on state tax collections. And so therefore, going into the next legislative session, there will be a very limited ability to ask for new programs capacity. Let's see. I think that's all of the issues. Oh, I know one. The Department of Health has had air quality monitors around Lahaina, and yesterday, Dr. Fink, the head of DOH, Department of Health, said that all of the air quality monitors are registering green. That means the air is not showing any signs of toxic emissions on those air quality monitors. I think that's good news. Anyway, thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mary Alice. I see Maka'ala's hand up.
Yes, thank you. Just curious, Mary Alice, that would seem to indicate that they have applied that sealant to everything. Do you know if that's the case?
Maka'ala, can you say that again? Applied the what?
No, the sealant. They were going to apply a sealant on top of the ash so that it wasn't.
I don't know. I'm sorry. We haven't involved in that part of the protection actions.
Thank you.
Okay, Robin, go ahead.
Just to draw your attention, if you haven't seen it, Civil Beat today has an article about sort of the opposite of what you were saying, Mary Alice, in terms of the water in Lahaina and how it's going to be years before that's back to any kind of normalcy. So
I did see that. Yes, I've heard the Maui County Department of Water Supply Administrator John Stuffleby talk about the damage and the efforts that they are undertaking, starting, not finishing, starting to assess that damage and start making some repairs so that the folks that have homes and businesses that were not damaged can get their water restored, so they might be able to move back to their homes.
Alice, thanks, Robin. Any other questions for Mary Alice on her report? And members of the public as well, you're welcome to testify on any item. Okay. Well, I'm not seeing any, so yeah, again, thank you, Mary Alice. It's nice to see you this month, so thanks for sharing that with us. You guys are very busy. Okay, up next, Michelle, I will now turn it to you for your exemption committee update.
Thank you. We did discuss just internally the two lists that we received for review, the exemptions committee, one from the Office of Housing and Community Development. So Royce, we sort of took an internal look at that list today, and we'll be inviting OHCD to attend our next month meeting. So we've just got a few questions and a couple of points we wanted to clarify on the list. So should I send that request? I think it was Jalen that originally sent the list to us. Should I contact her? Is that the best person?
You can send it to me on the Royce Jerome dot. I'll put the my email in the what do you call chat. Yes, thank you.
Great, thank you. So we will do that. We also received a request from State of Hawaii Commission on Water Resource Management from CWRM. They had an addition to their list, but we kind of ran out of time today to get through that. So we're going to put that on next month's agenda to discuss internally on the committee. Any questions about those lists? All right. Well, we'll have our next meeting next month and yeah, have the discussion with OHCD and continue our discussion on the Seaborn list.
Great, thanks, Michelle. Royce, did you have a question?
Oh, no, I'm just saying thank you. Sorry, my phone was muted. Yeah, I'm not sure. See, for me, I'm not familiar with the process, so I'm not sure what's happening step by step along. All we know is we just submit this list to the council, and yeah, we just need approval. So yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for attending, and it's good you jumped on today. We would contact you when we needed somebody present. At this point, we were just having an internal discussion on the committee. But yeah, next month we'll have you on and we can work through a couple of questions we have.
Thank you.
Yeah, so Royce, a little bit more in the process, right? Once the committee, we may have some questions which may or may not drive some minor changes to your list. Depending on when you folks can get those changes to us, committee can review one more time, and then we'll I guess depending on how our discussion goes, the next time, if the revisions can be made relatively quickly or whatnot, then the next step in the process is for the committee to make a recommendation to the full council on getting the list published in the environmental notice for a 15-day public comment period, right? So any changes to the list that your public comments, might be driven by changes to the list may be driven by public comments. We haven't seen many public comments over the years. It's typically council members who are reviewing it will get their comments in during that time. And then we'll send you folks the comments. You can read them and review and see if you need to do any changes, and then resubmit the list to the committee for one more review. And usually at that review, it'll be the same committee meeting in the morning, and they'll make a recommendation to the council to concur in the afternoon or not. Yeah. So probably a couple more meetings you have with us for the full process.
Okay, no problem. Thank you. Appreciate that explanation.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else questions on exemption committee update before we move on? No? Okay, and then I see Jay Stone joined. Jay, would you like to introduce yourself for the record?
Hold on, let me get my video up. Aloha, I'm Jay Stone. I've applied to be on this council. So thank you, Mona, for sending me the invitation. Sorry I didn't catch it earlier. I just got back from another meeting. So just listening to see how things are and how things progress at the meeting. So thank you very much for inviting me.
Yeah, thank you for joining us, Jay. All right, and it looks like Mike is also trying to join. So just give him a second before we move on to our next agenda item. Okay, he's taking a little bit of time, so I want to be respectful of others' time. Robin, I'll turn it over to you for the legislative committee update.
Sure. Thank you, Onana. We were tasked to do a little research on what the testimony had been about the Department of Environment, and the bill that had the only bill that I could see that had a hearing on this subject was held on February 7th, and the bill was Senate Bill 1597. And I just want to highlight some of the testimony. It won't take very long, but you should hear some of it. The Department of Budget and Finance pointed out that the Hawaii Constitution specifies that, quote, there'd be no more than 20 principal departments, end quote, and then pointed out that currently there are 19 principal departments, with the last establishment of the Department of Law Enforcement. So this has been raised by others, but this was the very specific statement about the number of departments and why that would be might be a challenge for establishing a new one. OPSD testified to clarify, I think this was under Scott's name, this one, to clarify the relationship between EAC and OPSD, since the bill had been introduced, I think, and it misunderstood it referred to the previous arrangement that we had with the Department of Health. The Department of Health had concerns, quote, about devoting the resources required to undertake a major reorganization at this time. The State Energy Office supported the idea. The City and County Board of Water Supply supported the idea, but they added which I thought was kind of interesting. they recommended that a board be established that consisted of one member appointed by each of the following: the governor, the Hawaii Senate, the Hawaii House, Honolulu City Council, Hawaii County Council, and Maui County Council. And this was, their proposal was that this would be an oversight board for the Department of Environment. Individual testimonies, there weren't many. There were 5 who supported with just very, very brief comments like, I think this is a great idea. And there were 2 who supported with longer, more substantive comments. I would encourage you to take a look at that hearing. It's easy to find, Senate Bill 1597, February 7th. But that's really basically it on what happened. Any questions?
Thank you, Robin. Any questions for Robin? You know, Robin, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No,
Okay.
I was just going to say, Onana and I have scheduled, and we'll talk about a little bit more about this later on, but we've successfully scheduled a meeting, our annual meeting with Senator Gabbard and Representative Lowen for December 5th with Onana and I. So we'll be asking you for what you would like us to talk about. Makala, I have a specific question for you about that later on when we get to that conversation.
Okay, and I have a question now too, or at least a comment now too. How many of our counties have an equivalent of a Department of Environment? I know that Rob, right, was part of something from Maui for years, and I used him in that capacity as a resource person for Kauai. We do not have one. I was recently it came up at the recent DLNR listening sessions on Kauai that they weren't specifically saying who should have it, but somebody should have it. And there has been conversation on Kauai previously that the county should have one. So I would like to explore the idea of what that looks like. You know, would there be county ones? Would there be just a state one? Because I think one of the concerns, of course, is duplication of responsibility and effort, right? So would it relieve our agencies of all the things that they have to do, or you know, would it make life easier, or would it make life harder?
Yeah, good points.
Sorry,
I'd be interested. Thank you for the reference of the number. I'd misplaced that, but I'd be interested in whether or not it's, I mean, my own personal cogitation. Would it be more work, less work? Would it be a clearinghouse? Would it be just an added something? And is anybody doing it now?
Yeah, I don't know, and maybe Dawn might know better if there is a Maui department. I didn't think there were any departments of the environment for any of the counties or the state yet.
I think it was a created position, and when Rob left, I think somebody did replace Rob, but I don't know what their title is and where they are placed within the county. But I don't think that's an actual department.
That was under the mayor's office, yeah?
Yeah.
Interesting. Thank you for that. That makes sense. Steph, go ahead.
Yeah, Makalea Ane took over from Rob. And she's no longer in that position. And I haven't followed where it went, but I believe, and Dawn, correct me if I'm wrong, it was something like sustainability coordinator. Anyway, that position had a outsized effect on Molokai that was appreciated in terms of being sort of an arm of the mayor to look at actions and opportunities on the ground related to a broad breadth of environmental / agricultural opportunities. I know it's different for every county. I had a question for you, Robin, on this point. And you've brought it up before, and arguably is probably the most knowledgeable out of any of us. But I mean, would you mind just sharing sort of your thoughts and opinions on a Department of the Environment?
Yeah, I mean, Onana, am I allowed to do that? Any reason I shouldn't?
I mean, I think so, unless Allison tells us we can't.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I mean, I appreciated all of the comments from people, the very practical comments about the amount of resources it would take to set up a new department, especially now with the tax situation, which changes the reality, I'm sure. But the concept, the idea that there would be a Department of the Environment, I think would be a major step forward for our state. And I know it's one of the things I look forward to talking with Rep. Lowen about, to see if she's still going to try and pursue it. And Gabbard was along with her on that. Mary Alice, I don't know if this has come into your planning for the legislative session or not, whether you've heard that they're going to bring it back. We won't know, Onana and I, until we meet with them. But short answer, I think it's a really good idea. I think for a number of reasons, including perceptions.
Thank you.
Rachel, you had your hand up.
I was mostly going to say what Steph did, which is that Rob Parsons was also a contact for me at various points, but in being in the environmental natural resources management field in Maui County for the last 8 years, there has not been anyone at Maui County who is a particularly consistent contact. There may be someone potentially in sustainability, and there's a new Department of Agriculture for Maui, but that's has like a director and a deputy and no other staff or funding. So, and a sort of, I don't want to say an unclear mandate, but just there's a bit of overlap in environment, but not very much. But I could see how, so I could see adding a Department of Environment at the state level, in addition to everyone else who's doing stuff, could make things, depending on unless their mandate and roles and responsibilities were very clear, it could add more for everyone to deal with. But at the same time, if there were a rearrangement and a consolidation, the way that some other states have, that sort of like Department of Natural Resources and Environmental Control, like it could be a lot better coordinated.
Part of the premise for the Department of Environment was to address exactly what you're talking about, Rachel, and to take all the other pieces that were in all the other agencies and put it all into the Department of Environment. So look at the Department of Health. What do they have to do with environmental issues? Move it over. So there was, in the initial drafts, there was clear recognition of trying to avoid duplication. Whether some agencies would give up what they had, some probably would give it up in a flash, and others would probably be quite intransigent. So I think it'd be an interesting, again, I think it would be a good idea if they were to incorporate the things that other departments do, but I see this as an incredibly heavy lift this coming year. Just the resource issue.
Yeah, I would agree. And Maka'ala, your comment about maybe doing it at the county level is kind of interesting to me, because I think there are a lot of things that you go through in terms of duplication that you have to get permits both from county and state. So, I mean, to the extent at some point, and I don't think it'll happen anytime soon, that even within that duplication, there could just be one department for everything. Makes sense. And maybe it is at the county level, but yeah, anyhow. Mary, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
I think this is all about money. I think that our state legislative entities have demonstrated time and time again that they don't care enough about the environment to spend money on it. And I've said that to their face, and I'm saying it here for the record because it's what I believe. I think that whenever you do something new, there needs to be a sunrise audit. So what we would be asking for is not to create the department. What we would be asking for is to do a sunrise audit of what would happen if we did an audit. If we did a department. And I think what I was always taught, and to be successful in politics, is to take a vote before you go for the vote. And I think what we're kind of missing the bet on here with this is, it's great that we're friendly with Lowen and Gabbard and all that, But if we really want to see this happen, we should be doing a little bit of our own mini audit first. And we should look at, you know, like Robin said, there's some departments that would probably love to get rid of some of this environmental responsibility, except that some of the environmental responsibility are tied to some good paying jobs within their departments. And it's really important, and I don't mean anything disparaging about anyone who might work for the state that's on this call, but I have seen really good ideas shot down for no better reason than it's going to affect somebody's fiefdom. And particularly if that fiefdom might impact how high their high 3 is. And so we need to, you know, and this is what I feel like, you know, we need a list of what departments would be impacted, and then look at those departments and see whose department heads are about to retire, because that's where you're going to get your most pushback. And it's just reality of how you do something new and innovative. And the more that we can go forward and say to Lowen and Gabbard is, here's what our early numbers look like. And then, you know, it's just like we testify towards things to give a legislator their floor speech for why they're going to vote. You know, it's the same kind of behavior. And I think that we're probably a little behind the 8 ball, behind the curve on getting and really being ready to go forward to argue for this kind of a department. Especially, I personally don't understand, what are we saving ourselves for? You know, it's like we've got 19 out of 20 departments. We're so afraid who we're going to bestow the 20th position on. You know, it's almost humorous that they're so hesitant to make this the last and only available department. You know, what have they got in their pocket that they want to bring forward instead? So, anyway, those are
just to make it clear for everybody, neither I nor Onana and I were advocating for the creation of the Department of Environment. What we were doing was trying to see if this indeed was going to be moving forward, and I'm sure there are others to talk to besides Gabbard and Lowen. It sounds like a comedy duo. That we see what the EAC could do to help them, which would require a whole different conversation. So I certainly was answering Steph's question about my own personal feelings, but I just want to assure everybody, we were not in any way speaking for the council. We've never taken a vote. We've never even come close to that kind of conversation. So have no fear.
Oh, good points, Robin, and thanks, Mary. I do appreciate that you understand the process so well, and for those of us who aren't as entrenched in the legislative process and the realities of the politics behind sharing that, because yeah, there's the aspirational and then there's the reality, right, and what actually happens. So it's good to have the aspirational goals, but be mindful of potential obstacles and whatnot. So yeah, go ahead, Steph.
Just one more quick thought on this, particularly given what Mary Alice shared at the top in regards to OPSD's position leading the sort of recovery effort for Lahaina and Maui. We're in a new day, right? Climate change is here, and these crises are upon us. And so business as usual with our 19 departments and however we're divvied up may not work very well anymore. And so I do think that, and I'm not wholesale Department of the Environment. I personally don't understand it well enough, which is part of my questioning. But I do think that this is an opportunity to be thoughtful and potentially creative, particularly with OPSD in that role. And it could be an opportunity to learn, right? If what would make recovery easier here? Would it be a consolidated department? Maybe, because unfortunately, these crises are going to continue to happen.
Yep, good point. Go ahead, Mary Alice.
Thank you, Chair. Steph, I do need to clarify that we're not the lead of the whole recovery effort. that we're one of 7 state recovery support functions that support the county of Maui, and FEMA also has those recovery support functions as well, and all of the federal family, so that they can request funding for recovery projects. For just have to be clear that we're not leaving all of that. But I absolutely agree with you that we are in a period where we will see many more disasters due to climate change, and our ability to adapt, respond, and protect is going to be at a very different level than we have, and therefore our county and state and federal partners are all have to work together more closely to look at what is needed. Now, as some of you may know, I co-chair the State Climate Commission, and we were created by the legislature with members from many of the state agencies, all 4 counties, and the legislature. And we have been working primarily on sea level rise and reducing transportation emissions through various mitigation projects. But we also need to be looking at the impacts of drought and heat stress on both human health and our environment as well. And I think that crosses a lot of different departments at the state level and the county level. And so I think that was the reason why the Climate Change Commission was created as a multi-agency advisory group. It is advisory, charged with researching, discussing, and recommending mitigations and adaptations. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mary Alice.
If I could, not to belabor this, but I'll just throw in there because Mary Alice used the expressions of climate change and sea level rise. I attended a concert on Saturday or a Sunday evening of a young lady from Easter Island. She's one of the world's leading concert pianists, blah, blah, blah. She used her platform at the end. Her 7-year-old daughter chanted to some of her songs. And she used the fact that her daughter was there and her platform to talk about climate change and to challenge the people in the audience to take their time and money and put it where it really mattered. And I understand that Makana performed on Friday evening, and he did the same thing. And so, like to Steph's point, I'm tired of doing stuff the same old way. You guys know me well enough to know that I'm not very patient. And as I get older, I'm less patient. And I want to use the rest of my life to make this crap stop. Let's make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. All right, well, good discussion on this. Is there anybody else, members of the public or council members, ERP, who have comments on, okay, go ahead, Tessie.
I've always wondered where the environmental court fit in this whole picture. Because wasn't it a created department also from 4 or 5 years ago?
Yeah, it's not a part of the executive branch, but it is a new court, kind of like a bankruptcy court, right? So it's part of the judiciary.
Oh, that would be.
Yeah, so it doesn't go to the count on the departments.
Okay.
Mary Alice, tell me if I'm wrong, but it's a separate branch, right? So I don't believe it does.
Absolutely correct, Chair. The environmental court is one of the specialty courts that the judiciary has established to expedite handling of suits and appeals on environmental matters. They have others as well, drug courts, family court, all on goal of having some judges with a deep knowledge of a particular area.
Okay, anybody else on this topic? All right, well, thank you, everybody. It's a really good discussion. And Mike, welcome. I know you came in a little bit ago. Do you want to go ahead and just introduce yourself for the record? Mike, are you there?
After listening to all this, well, where we're headed for, my experience at dealing with the legislature, it's really difficult to start addressing environmental issues, especially when you should be working on something that's right here today. And I think Mary's right. We've got to look at what the climate change is doing and address it from there. Otherwise, we're trying to make rules. The rules don't belong. That's all I got.
Thank you, Mike. All right. So thanks, Robin, for that update for the legislative committee. I'm going to turn it over to Steph now.
Thanks, Anona. So attached to the agenda, hopefully you all were able to take a look at it, is our draft 2023 annual report. So this, follows what we discussed and agreed on earlier in the year as to what this ever-changing annual report will look like. It follows much of the same vein as last year. And, I'd be happy to open it up for comments, questions, edits, etc.
I think you did a great job.
I second that. Nice work, Steph.
Good
Thanks,
work.
guys.
And also the committee chairs for getting your blurbs into stuff. So thank you folks for doing that in a timely manner.
The electronic whippings that we got from our I mean, you can't see the scars. That's why I've got a shirt on here, but
You get the gold star, Robin. You were the first up. I didn't have to harass you. No, yeah, thank you. I should have mentioned that at the top. Thank you, chairs, very much. And I think our policies and procedures kind of helped us in this regard a bit, to look back on and be able to include that sort of framing language along with what our achievements for the year. And thank you to Dawn for some pictures, which didn't make it in the draft. But we will make sure we get a couple pictures in the final.
So in terms of process stuff, did you want to, I don't know if folks had, edits that they wanted to make today and provide them verbally, or stuff, do you want to set a deadline but prior to, so our next meeting is scheduled for, I believe it's December 5th, Tuesday, December 5th. So agenda deadline is going to be November 24th. Is that correct, ERP? Day after Thanksgiving?
Sorry, what's the agenda deadline? The
November 24th. Yeah.
November 24th.
Yep.
That's a terrible date for an agenda deadline.
Getting
Okay.
Would you, ERP, would you be, I mean, because yeah, we post the agenda on the 29th. So I mean, it's 24th or 27th. But yeah. I know 27th is cutting it a little close.
How about we up it? Let's up just to make sure that
November 22nd. Day before Thanksgiving.
That's the Wednesday.
It's the Wednesday, yeah. Okay.
I would like it before that. Sorry.
No, that's fine. You set your annual report revision deadline stuff. And then
Okay.
we'll say for committee chairs, if you can get your December 5th agendas in no later than Wednesday, November 22nd, please.
Can I
Just-
have comments, folks, by Friday, November 17th to this draft?
Isn't everybody already happy with it?
And that's cool too, but
Yeah, I think there's just like a little bit of cleanup in terms of
Okay, sorry, I thought our
No, no,
deadline was
no.
already come and gone, so.
yeah,
Okay.
no, I was gonna say, I mean, for substantive edits, if you guys have the cleanup, we'll do at the end, right? Because I think just, with different authors, people, like defined things which we don't need throughout since it's one
Yeah.
report. So just those kind of cleanups, but if you have substantive edits, right? Get those to stuff no later than Friday, November 17th. And once we get everybody's edits, we can do a final read through for like the cleanup and formatting and everything. And so that it gets posted on it gets posted on our agenda for the December 5th meeting so that we can take final action on it that day. That's the goal, to vote on the final.
I do have a request, and Robin, I apologize, but it might be to you. I did think that under legislative committee where there's the bill numbers, if there might be a little more context that we could provide for those, just super short, no like explanation, but would you be willing to do that?
If you take back your scolding me for writing too much, I will be glad to add to it. Yes, I will put
Gotta
in.
just push back at me. I mean,
I was worried when I
pages
saw how
it-
much, I was worried when I saw Robin's that ours was too short and we were gonna get in trouble for too short, so.
Did you guys see the annual report section?
Yeah, I did.
Two
I felt better.
sentences.
Hey, Mary, maybe one suggestion just for INO is, just a link to add the link to wherever the recordings of the forums are in that section. Are folks opposed to that at all?
No, not at all. That's fine.
And I'll give you a little bit of, I'll give you maybe the title of the bill or just a summary of what that you'll refer to. Sure.
Thank you. So Mary, you'll put the link in to the draft?
Probably Dawn will.
Or Don just send.
No, actually,
the link.
I'm teasing. I'll have to get with Tom. I don't even know where it is.
Yeah,
but
we'll have to find the links because I think they're in the OEQC side, ERP side.
Yeah, if it doesn't need to be the individual links. I was thinking maybe just, all of the recordings of the forums are available at blank.
Okay.
On
Yeah.
the website, I'll get you the link to where the page is for the.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I was also wondering if maybe there was an opportunity, although this is for a specific audience, that it's also a public document, if there might be an opportunity at the beginning of it to include the elevator speech that we did. I don't want it to be duplicative, and the first paragraph does describe the EAC is tasked with, but I just was wondering that.
That's a good suggestion. I think you and I can kind of go through that and see what additional language from the approved elevator speech can go, or I can do it and give you a draft and see what you like.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right. Well, any other? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Steph.
Nope, I'm good. Thank you all.
All right. Thank you, folks. So again, deadlines. Friday, November 17th for any further comments or edits on the annual report. Wednesday, November 22nd for agendas from the committees. And for all of our agendas, so that we can, for the December 5th meeting. Okay. All right. So Robin, I'm going to go back to you.
Yeah, and am I on mute? No. Okay. I'd like to go back this is kind of a legislative committee. We've kind of blended these a little bit. We go to speak to our colleagues at the legislature on December 5th, the morning before our meeting. And Makala asked us to raise an issue about the DLNR and the, let's see here, Makala, you talked about that we address issues around the division of, around DOBORs. The issue is that DOBOR is issuing permits to areas that cannot handle the usage. So two things. A, for that specific one, Makala, if you would please just put together a couple of sentences that clarify that so that when we go and speak to them, we have a little more knowledge than just what's in the minutes.
I have the briefing that I prepared for the BLNR chair, and I'll send that to you. It's a one-pager. It's not huge, but it's not a couple of sentences.
That's fine.
The thing is, they're asking for the support. So again, we just did the listening sessions here, and it's a statewide concern is the reason I brought it up. It's not just a Kauai matter, and the chair is looking for help.
Okay, I just want to be a little more knowledgeable about the issue when we go and speak with them. And
of course,
the briefing paper would be great. But that leads me to say that if there are other issues that any of you want us to raise, at this point, we will raise them as individual comments rather than as the EAC, since we will not have had time to discuss these and vote for them and approve them like the Department of Environment. My sense is we would be asking them, are you going to be, what are the issues you're bringing up this year? And is there a role you foresee for the EAC in any of that? So my question to you is, to all of you and any of you, if there are things you would like to have raised at that meeting, please send them to Onauna and or I or both of us, soon.
Yeah, let's say that November November 22nd date.
That's fine.
Again, but I mean, if sooner, the better, but no later than just so we have, if we have to do any follow-up and get explanation from you on, what issue are you talking about in particular?
Yeah, and it would be helpful if it's an issue that is not generally known, if you put like Makala is going to do, some kind of information behind it. Why is it an issue? And then we'll hopefully have a conversation with them about that. Now, onto the Strategic Planning Committee agenda item.
I'm sorry, Robin, just before you move on, a question about this meeting with them. Are you and Onana gonna bring up sort of statute type edits, revisions, or where does that conversation stand? I'm thinking about the AR.
We can. I am hesitant to ask them to just bring up an edit to 341 again for our AR because we just had them tweak it this year. So, my personal opinion is that this process that we're doing now is not that onerous on us, since we're not doing like a full report. And, again, we're working with OPSC to figure out how we submit it to them. But if folks feel super strongly about it, yeah, we can bring it up. I do feel bad. They've basically tweaked 341 like the last two legislative sessions, and they've been such small things. And with other bigger priorities, I mean, I'd rather wait unless it's something super crucial, because it's time on us to prep the testimony. And I feel like this is going to be a really crazy session with everything that happened over the last few months. So if folks don't really feel super strongly about the annual report, tweaking that, I prefer not to. But again, you can outvote me. So
no, we don't want to outvote you. I think those are very good arguments. I think our sense was we were going to inform them, just to make them aware that we were going to do an annual report the way you've done it. I just don't want this to come back to us later on and have them say, well, why didn't you put this in OPSD? And then have to explain to them that there is no such thing as an OPSD annual report. So, but right. I do think it was my sense that we would inform them and not ask them to make any specific statutory changes.
Okay. I can get behind that. I'm thinking more in the future. Yep. We have ruminated on this for a long time. A lot of us are stepping off next year. And so just in terms of clarity, and a path forward for those who come next was, but I can also really get behind this being small and they have other priorities. So.
And you know what, Steph, I think it's such a good point in terms of the transition. And so if we didn't already, I can add language to the next draft of the policies and procedures just to like, hey, by the way, new council members, don't worry about this. This is how we do it. You know, the statute says this, but this is actually what we need to do to make our annual report happen. So I think for the time being, maybe we do it that way, instead of asking them for that kind of little tweak, because even that little tweak takes an enormous amount of time, both on our side and their side, to introduce the bill and whatnot. Now, if your question is a bigger question about amending any other statutes, that's something that we can talk to them about if there's something bigger. I know in the past we've talked about, you know, any amendments to 343 actually does get met with resistance. We did a big push to amend 343.7 for the appeals to the council. I think it was 2 or 3 years now. And that one actually was big because that was kind of like a due process thing, and it was a huge undertake for us to actually hear an appeal. So something like that I think is bigger and we can do, but or if there's just other statutes, I mean, you know, other statutes aren't really our plano, but doesn't mean we're saying, hey, we've noticed this has come up, and you know, are you folks looking at amending X, Y, and Z? So that's something we certainly could just talk to them about in this session, or if we have any specific amendments we want to propose, because what they will do is they'll ask us to prep the language for them. Yeah. So, I mean, think about that if you folks have other areas that you think need tweaking.
Yeah, for me, it's really an opportunity to get firsthand knowledge of what they're planning. What are their priorities for the year? And so that we can do some brainstorming about how do we fit into this, or do we? You know, there are committee chairs. They're the relevant ones. So we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
It's also a good way for us to remind them that we exist, because we're clearly not top of their minds. The Strategic Planning Committee, I only wanted to get a sense if anybody had any specific issues for the EAC. I know that one of them is recruiting for new members, since so many of us are terming out, and another will be, and it's obviously connected, committee chairmanships and participation. I term out in, I think it was June. So that's 2 committees right there that are going to need, you know, young blood. So we just need to be thinking about that as a strategic planning opportunity. And if there are other things that you wish us to deal with, and this committee is really set up to be an internal pusher. So if there's pushing that needs to be done, let us know.
Thanks, Robin. And to the recruiting point, I know a couple of members have worked on getting folks interested to apply. You know, as Jay said, he applied. And so I have reached out to boards and commissions to ask that, you know, they contact me, because, you know, I told them we have several vacancies and we'll have more. And so we do have some folks with applications in, and we want to get that nomination process started ahead of session so we can get folks confirmed. But yeah, we have, I think, God, I want to say probably half of us are terming out in 2024 at some point. Yeah, so going to be kind of big turnover. So I'll start looking, I think, yeah, I'll start looking for a replacement for me, if everybody can start looking for their replacements who's terming off. You know, that would be really, really good.
I found a replacement for me, and she's just waiting in the wings. And I, you know, I hadn't thought of asking her to come into the meetings prior to that, but that's actually a really good idea. If that's a doable thing, Chair, please let us know, because I'd love to extend that invitation to her as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You're welcome to forward her, you know, the agenda for the next meeting, and she can join in. So that, you know, she can see if she likes it. I mean, even Gordon, before he came on, he joined a few meetings, right, before he was formally appointed and whatnot. So at least it gives folks an idea of this type of stuff that we're talking about and what we do. Not a requirement, of course, but yeah, if you know folks are interested, of course, the meeting's open to the public. Anybody can join. So, all right. Anything else on strategic planning, Robin?
No, good.
Thank you. Any questions for Robin from council members, members of the public? All right, so moving on, agenda item number 9. You know, I did re-agendize the emergency proclamation because on October 24th. So Mary Alice, I know you called it the third proclamation, and that's what I was calling it, but it's really funky because it's entitled the second, right? But it's actually the third. So if you guys are wondering why, that's why I added the dates, because we'll just go by the dates. But you know, I don't know that we need to spend too much time, and I did want to just put it on here in case folks had questions, because as Mary Alice said, you know, this second or third proclamation essentially restores, you know, does not exempt these projects from 343. And so I don't know that as a council we're as concerned with the emergency proclamation anymore. A lot of the things that folks were upset about and the reason the lawsuits were filed have since been restored, is my understanding. It's 343 6E. I don't know for sure if the lawsuits were withdrawn or not. I heard some of that, but I can't speak to that at all. Go ahead, Mary Alice.
Yes, we were told that the lawsuit was withdrawn and but could be refiled if there were some concern that arose in the future. So, but the since Sunshine Law was restored, 343 was restored, 6E was restored. You know, those were the main concerns, and it was made very clear, although it never was the case, that that the emergency proclamation was designed to rebuild the Lahaina. It was made very clear and you're right, it's the second emergency proclamation for affordable housing. The third, if you think of 3 of them, you know, as being something similar. So Lahaina is explicitly exempted from the second emergency proclamation for affordable housing.
Thank you for confirming that. And so as a reminder to folks, right, my understanding is now like the only exemption for affordable housing remains the exemption that we have in the rules, right, which is very narrow, must be on urban lands and lands already zoned for residential, blah, blah, blah. So I think essentially the normal process is there, but that's all I wanted to cover on that. I don't know if other folks have questions or wanted to discuss the proclamations further. It is agendized, so we can certainly do that.
Chair, there was one other area of exemption that some people were concerned about. So chapter 205, the Land Use Commission is no longer exempted for proposed housing proposals up to 100 acres as it was in the initial first emergency proclamation. So now we're back to the current statute and ordinances, which says that any district boundary amendment 15 acres must go through the State Land Use Commission boundary amendment contested case hearing.
Okay, thank you, Mary Alice. Okay, well, any comments from or questions from council members or members of the public on this agenda item number 9? No. Okay, well, thank you, folks. So I see we do have somebody else joining. As soon as her audio connects, I'll have her introduce herself. As we talked earlier, you know, Tuesday, December 5th is going to be our next meeting. So going over deadlines again, Friday, November 17th for any edits to the annual report, and Wednesday, November 22nd for agendas and items that you want Robin and I to mention to Senator Gabbard and Representative Lowen.
I may not be at that meeting.
Okay.
I have a very full schedule that day. I'll try to
Will you
move
get
some
your
things.
you also no INO meeting that day then?
Definitely no INO. Yeah. Sorry, Dawn. I think we'll be okay. We'll be ready for the 12th already. We'll be ready anyway, so.
I'll leave a regular just update item on the full EAC agenda for you then.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then before I move on, Linda Bowie, if you don't mind just, stating your name for the record. Linda, are you there? Okay.
Hello.
Oh, hi, Linda.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Okay, Linda Boy. Would you like me to introduce? Sorry.
Yeah, if you can go ahead, just introduce yourself.
Oh.
And
Linda Boy from Office of Housing and Community Development.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Linda, we're actually just coming to the end of our meeting, so we're doing kind of our admin stuff. But if there was, a particular agenda item when you looked at our agenda that you had wanted to provide comments on, was there anything?
Oh no, we just had our exemption list on this agenda. I was in another meeting, so I just thought to stop by to see if there was anything on that.
No problem. So Royce was actually on earlier from your office. And so we're still reviewing internally, but we reviewed at our committee meeting today, and Michelle Lefebvre, the exemption committee chair, is going to be reaching out to you folks with some additional questions and comments, and then we'll probably have you guys join our committee meeting in December.
Okay.
December 5th.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so last thing was, just another reminder, if you folks got emails from ERP about getting your ethics completion certificate in, can you please make sure to do that? I think there's a couple of folks that they reached out to and it's outstanding. It's got to be completed by the end of the year. Yeah. So, okay. Any other announcements? No? Okay, well, I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you so much for joining and participating. It's 2:16 p.m. and we're going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting. All right. Everybody
Happy
have
Thanksgiving, everybody.
Aloha.
Thanksgiving.
Bye.
See you guys.
Aloha. Mahalo.